Hello, dear co-friends. Today I'm going to repeat the subject of contract thinking as I do it in my certified less practitioner courses these days. This on special request. So here we go. Thanks for joining in. If we think about contract thinking, then I put this in the course to create some kind of common context for people to do systems modeling on. And would be the subsequent exercise that is being done in the context of this kind of contract thinking. It might sound pretty negative in that sense when we build up the tension, when we build up the context, but we work with it so that we also see, okay, how can we get out of it in a later phase. Today, I'm just going to talk about the contract thinking itself. And that's a bit negative, but okay, I got a request, so let's do this. If we think about contract thinking and we have some kind of party A, and party A has this kind of bag of euros that they are willing to invest to have a problem solved for them. Then on the other side, you have a party B that is going to fulfill or build the solution for party A. And there is some kind of negotiation phase between A and B to come to a certain context. If you look from that perspective, party A that has the money to get the problem solved, they will have this kind of tendency to always want more and more and more. If it's a software product, if they think like, okay, this problem is solved, and then there's another problem coming up, and then if this problem is solved, then maybe we can have more data. If we have all the data, we need to have reporting on it. If we have reporting, maybe the AI can kick in to make sense of all the data that we have, and so on and so on and so on. So it doesn't stop with just asking the bare minimum for a problem solved. That they want to squeeze as much as they can out of the money they are willing to spend, and that's a general tendency. Also for myself, if I need a new car, then I have a similar tendency. In the car industry, we have the best requirements and engineering tools that we can ever have, the car configurators, and I spend quite some time on the car configurators these days. And at the end, I keep like 2, maybe 3 car configurations that I do like, and then I go to local car dealers, and local car dealers understand that if I'm party A and I have a big of money and I have already investigated what I want, then they understand that my tendency is to get more. So this is my tendency there. If I go to a local car dealer, they are not going to offer the same configuration cheaper because they understand my dynamics is to get more. So they will add extra features on the car so that I get more for the same price. And in business, it's not something else. It's the same thing. So then on party B side where we need to deliver a solution, it's always too late, always not what I wanted, and all the rest of things. So here is the tendency to have less. So we don't want to mess up. So the least that we need to do in this amount of money and time that we get, the better it's going to be for us. So, and this is a kind of negotiation ongoing. So party A is going to go like more, always wanting more. And then you have party B here, and they will go like less. So, and this is a kind of dynamic thing, like going back and forth, from less to more, from more to less, and all that stuff. Now, and at a certain moment in time, let's say for the sake of simplicity, we put it here. Certain moment in time, they all put it on paper and they sign it off. So, generally call this a contract. So, and in a contract, we have some kind of scope that you put on a certain time frame, and that is connected to a certain amount of money. So this is where we get to. And then the question is like, okay, you know what, when is this contract going to be signed? And if we ask this in a classroom training, then people come like, when the requirements are clear, when the things are clear. So with lots of different opportunities, most probably, why? Because they think chronologically in that sense. So they start building up the story from the beginning, from an empty space, and then at that moment in time, it might even make sense to try to come to some common agreement and put a contract and then sign it off. But if we then really go deeper and asking 5 whys, like, yeah, but why? Why do they actually sign it off? Why do they now at this moment in time conclude and not go again like more or less? So when is this really stopping? So this is becoming more difficult. So from a systems thinking perspective, the first thing that you do is think backwards. So Maybe not even at the point at the end, but maybe somewhere here where we truly have a customer which is okay with what has been delivered. So, and if we then think backwards, so let's extend the arrow. If we think backwards and we ask ourselves, like, when is the first moment in the process backwards thinking, like happy customers, everything else okay, completely finished. If we think backwards and we go from this end state towards the beginning, when is the first time that we're going to use that contract again? And if you look at that, when we ask that question, and people generally come to the conclusion when there's something wrong. Either the customer is not happy, we are not happy. So when there is a problem, that's the moment when we're going to use this contract again. So from a contract thinking perspective, so from this backward thinking way of exploring when do they sign this contract, the party A and party B will sign the contract when they maximized the opportunity to shift blame to the other party. So let me repeat this. If you look from backwards thinking, so when the contract is only used when a problem occurs, then from a realistic perspective, party A and party B will sign the contract when they maximized the opportunity to shift blame to the other party. So that's an important aspect already to keep in your mind. If we continue contract thinking, then generally ask people as well to come up with 3 post-its. So post-it number 1 is related, and I will use a different color. Post-it number 1 is related to scope. That's where I asked to create a post-it with RC, which stands for requirement changes. So if we look at the contract there in the beginning, and then we validate how much of the requirements of the scope that was in the contract had been changed, added, or removed versus the end over there in the contract, and then put a percentage, then we get things like between 30 to even 300%. That's what I see happening in the courses. So then the second post-it that I ask people to write is related to the time and money. If you see time and money wise, that's where I ask, like, what is the percentage difference of the actual versus the estimated? So from a time and budget perspective, like if you look at the beginning, what we thought would be the actual, this is the estimated one, so the estimated time and budget, versus there where we have this kind of okay customer. So what's the percent of change? Also there you come to very similar things. So very similar to the 30 to 300% related things. I think 300% is maybe a bit exaggerated on most of the cases, but this is what we at least see. On top of that, I asked, like, okay, if we have scope and we want to extract, because this is the way how things are being moved in the traditional world, we define scope and then we ask people about time and money. So if we go from scope and we want to understand time and money, then we take into account a certain kind of productivity. So I think we can agree. If we don't understand productivity within the organization, then we can never come to time and euros. So we need to take into account, assume a certain kind of productivity. And that's where the next post comes from. That's where I say, okay, you know what? Let's come up with a number. So hashtag FP. So a number of factors that will influence productivity. And we are talking here about contracts about at least 1 year. So to give an example, if there's a flu epidemic in the winter time, this is going to be one factor that influences productivity. Having your main engineer leaving the company and you need to hire another one is a second one. So how many of those factors can you come up with? So holiday periods, illness. So there's quite a lot of them. So in rare cases, we see people coming with numbers below 10. That are really in rare cases. And every course that I have, you always have people that come up with a flat 8. So there's an infinite number of factors that will influence productivity in a 1 year time frame. Then we'll analyze data. If we ask for data, we get all those posters, then we need to analyze data. And if we analyze the data, then people always go into details. Like we see around 30-40% as a common denominator, but then I always go to the old layers and then it's done going away. So, and this is also our human behavior. We tend to go into the details, and the first thing that we need to do is really stand back and look at the overall data. And if you look at the overall data, then there's not one of those 3 posts that end up with 0 altogether. Because if you want to have this kind of contract fixed and things like that, then the number of factors that could have an influence would be 0, the requirement changes would be 0, and the actuals versus the estimate would be exactly the same, so it would also be 0. So, but we don't have this. So at that moment in time, we basically collected group evidence that this contract is an illusion. So, and if we understand this contract is an illusion and we accept it, then we can actually really move on. So with moving on, it means as well, like if contract is there, we already know it's because we want to maximize the opportunity to shift blame. It's basically an illusion, and instead of accepting that it is an illusion and work with it, we try to say, okay, you know what, it's black on white, so we write it, we have signed it, so it must be the reality now. And that's a bit of a problem. If you go into traditional workways, then this kind of contract will be given to a project manager. Project manager might have went to the PMI Institute. So if you understand that project managers need to work with an illusion, then we could say the Project Management Institute is not really Project Management Institute. PMI really stands for Project Magician Institute. So. And then I ask people as well, like, okay, if you look at magical shows, these illusionists that you have seen on television or maybe in real life, even maybe the magicians in Kinderen in the circus when you were a child, then we ask for them what are the 3 main factors that really make an illusionist show really tremendously good. So one of the factors that we have is that we need to build up some kind of distraction. It could be beautiful girls, it could be anything but distraction. Music, doing tricks with the lights, so distraction. In the PMI Institute, they learn as well to have distraction, and that's a bit like this. So we have the square boxes, then the lines going like this, from this to there, and then it starts again. So we have all those also like distractions. So we have magical symbols to create on top of the reality, again, an illusion. So it's not really the reality, it gives some transparency, but it's definitely not the highest level of transparency that we need to work with illusions. Of course, it gives you some idea, which is not the right thing. So distraction, that's one thing that we come up with. The second part is like, okay, you know what? We need this kind of diversion about the thinking that we built into the people's head. So the best shows are those that come up with a surprise element. So when they get your mind into like, yeah, this and this and this is going to happen, and at a certain moment in time, something totally different is jumping in. Also, this they have been taught in the thing, and it's very simple. You get this like green lights, and then it's a green light, and it continues like until like the last maybe 2 months in a project of at least 1 year, and then the last 2 months is like going like a red. So also there in green, and at some moment I'm bang red. If it's traditional phase gate development, that's most probably the logical way. Because in the beginning it's analysis of the functional thing that is happening. Okay, we spend more time, but you know, if we spend more time, then it's better, clearer for developers to develop it. So then development time will be shortened, testing will be easier. So that's not a problem. Then going from a business functional perspective, we need to have some technical analysis done. Also, there it might take more time than initially planned for, but you know, if the functional things is well described and the technical is well described, then for our engineers and testers, it's basically executing. So it could become peanuts. And to be honest, I've been an engineer myself. If you give it to engineers and you ask them as well, are you done? It's always almost done. So today it's almost done, tomorrow it's almost done, after 3 days it's still almost done. So if you do project management in that sense, the only thing you can do, because you don't understand anything about the codes, you cannot have a check, you didn't see real working software. So the only thing you can do is trust the engineer. If they say almost done, it's almost done. So green lights. At the end, everything needs to come together, so really tightly integrated, so that testing can happening on the end to end. And that's the moment things go berserk. That's when the product becomes really transparent, and that's when the red light kicks in. So, and this red light is a bit of a problem in that sense. So, from there on, we need to continue, and this moment is where really the true magic kicks in. So, and I really say true magic, because the engineers like myself, they have this kind of amazing secret toolbox to make true magic happening. Secret toolbox that's like the quick and dirty approach. So instead of doing really like coding according to the design patterns, I think that no, we just go ahead, quick and dirty approach. So it's really hacking things together. And also, as quick and dirty and hacking, you get into an illusion that things is going faster. So we can quickly build stuff. Then again, there's no automated testing, no other stuff that is coming up. So basically, by doing all that stuff, we are creating this kind of technical debt. To give you some insight on technical debt, let me move this one around. So technical debt, if we would plot it out over time, and here technical debt, then it's this kind of curve like this. So if you look at this kind of curve, then you can split it up into three parts. And the first part, so the first 1 to 2 years, you see that people don't really bother about technical debt. It's a brand new product, very clean, features can be added very easily. So there's nothing to really worry about. After 1 to 2 years, depending on context and product complexity, after 1 to 2 years, that's when things become harder. So things are more difficult to build in. If we change something here, it starts to break very close to it. So keeping consistency on workflows, having stable quality is becoming an issue. And then the second phase that I see is somewhere between 4 to 6 years. And after 4 to 6 years, that's the moment really when you change something here, and there's actually something breaking over there. So and nobody really understands why. So that's the moment when the NG kicks in. So NG stands for next generation. Today they might even call it greenfield. So to kicking in, and this means we start all over again. This is a pretty costful endeavor. So a very costful endeavor to go into this thing, because every time you need to go over and build again, and this is costly. The root cause is not the lousy technical engineers and not doing the things. The root cause here we just explore is pretty much trying to build products according to contracts and not accepting that they were to start from already an illusion. Next to that, if true magic kicks in, it means as well that pressure goes up, because we need to deliver within the 2 months, no matter what it takes. So what is happening as well, there's this kind of phenomenon that kicks in, and this phenomenon is a pretty similar thing over time. You could look at EBITDA, for example, to make it really concrete, and then EBITDA will go like this. Why is EBITDA going like that? Because if we don't have the time and don't feel the time, then most probably we are not going to improve, or we just need to execute. Then all the opportunities to collaborate and improve will be scratched. One of the first things we are not going to do is we don't do sprint retrospectives anymore. The second thing, let's just skip the daily scrum for now, so that we can keep on building instead. So there's also learning going away. Review sessions, why do we bother about the review? We need to finish it up. So all the opportunities where we can accept the learning and see, okay, how can we deal with a reality as it is, instead of trying to keep the illusion, right? Is going away. And if we don't tackle the problems are also not going to go away. And what is happening then? We have the illusion we need to keep the people busy. They cannot tackle the problems, but the problem needs to be tackled. So what do? We create a role. So we create a role to tackle that problem. We hire somebody to fix the problem. As soon as this problem is fixed, another problem comes up. But also there we have no time to get it done, so we create a role for it. So we are continuously adding fat on top of the muscle. Meaning we are going to add people that basically are busy with coordination. We're trying to manage problems, to manage dependencies. So, well, people and the teams keep coding, no matter if it's not useful or not useful. So we keep adding people that are basically coordinating in a certain sense. We can add a hell of a lot more people to add coordination, but if the bottleneck is the production of quality, useful code into a product, and we don't change the amount there, we don't change the capacity there, then basically the outcome, the output of the organization is still the same. We can add as many people coordinating on top as we want or collecting information as we want, but the output, the outcome will not change. So meaning the revenue income will not change. But as we added more people to coordinate, our operational expense is going up, meaning the EBITDA goes down. And the more we do this, the worse it gets. It's a pretty similar thing. It's also exponentially going down. At a certain moment in time, let's say here, there's the single ringable neck that will get fired, and it's more probably like the dear CEO, like get out. What is happening then? The new CEO comes in, and they are not like, okay, you need to grow, you need to maintain at least a decent level of this thing. And we can do a bit like this, so the expectation of the board of directors are changing. If they understand the dynamics here, which we just discussed, if they really truly understand this dynamics, then they stop working as with things as an illusion, but working with reality. Then again, they fix a bit, they fire a couple of people, things like that. Then at a certain moment in time, it goes down again. Then the CEO goes down, and then again, and so. And always, every moment in time, the board of directors can lower their expectations. Of course, CEOs here have a bit more money and a relaxation time because they can, for example, to something, what do? They do an acquisition. So we acquire, and then we can start all over again over there. So we can save our ass by acquiring some things. What is a very nice thing to see? HBR has looked like, okay, what's the lifetime of a CEO within a company, and they came up with plus minus 5 years. So there might be some kind of nice relationship. Now, from a systems thinking perspective, you might say, okay, you know what, it's all related to the same thing. So it's related to building products according to illusions, which we consider reality. And it's crucial in an agile environment to understand that even if there are project contracts there, that they are okay to have to give you some direction, but that in the essence, they are an illusion. And that we need to accept the learning and all the discoveries that we do along the way and update and keep people informed and engaged in the changes and the progression. By building more of the distractions on top, by building in surprise elements, we can create a tremendous, amusing, very fun, illusionist show according to the contract. But it's not going to really help the organization. So if we really want to help the organization, then we need to start focusing on learning and accepting the learning in the events like in Scrum where they used to be. So you have the sprint retrospective to accept learning. You have sprint review to accept learning. You have daily Scrum to accept learning. So, and all are useful. So sprint retro is learning in the sense of the collaboration, not only within the team, but also outside the teams and across teams with the rest of the organization. So that's a learning moment on the collaboration. Sprint review is a learning moment on really the future of the product. So with what we learned in this sprint, how does the future look like now? What do we need to change and add? So in sprint review, it's closing the cycle, the inspector on that cycle, and making sure that also things change in the product backlog. And that's the learning cycle and sprint review. If you don't see anything changed, meaning added or thrown away in the product backlog, then most probably it's not being used as a true review session, but more as a status reporting. But that's for maybe another video later on. Daily Scrum similar. It's to evolve and see, okay, how are we doing as a team to approaching our sprint goal and having the increment really ready. It's not about I did this task and you did this task and the next task I'm going to do is this one. That's nice, but this is not sharing the learning also there. Daily Scrum is sharing the learning from the ongoing work. on a day-to-day basis. So that's an important aspect. And if we accept the learning, it means that we do not accept the illusion. So we can scratch the illusion and replace it by learning and having shorter iterations here, where we increase the transparency by doing working software. And by having working software on a continuous basis, we are going to have a hell of a lot of better projection towards the future, generate more of an outcome towards the employee, towards the customers and also employees. And you know, if you do it pretty well, then I can assure you, instead of having a customer which is okay with what they deliver, you really get a customer which is happy with what they get. And I think that's one of the most important things, making sure you deliver some impactful things towards your customer, and also make sure that your employees are engaged, not being punished of the things that they really are engaged and willing to do the best they can. So I guess this is a bit of a contract thinking put in place. So at least the things that I do in less training, a bit less interactive than I used to be. But in the meantime, I at least tried out my different tools, and I hope you have something useful with it. And at the ones that requested this video to be made, I hope I answered your question in the meantime as well. If not, you know where to contact me, and I'm happy to continue this work with you. So thanks for being there, and see you later. Bye bye.